Hey everybody, what's going on? It's finally here. We're in the month of the NHL draft, so there's a lot to look forward to as Montreal Canadiens fans, and we're still discussing who we believe the Montreal Canadiens will be selecting with that fifth overall selection in the 2023 draft. There's really a lot of possibilities, and we're not going to know a lot of information, but there are some key events coming up that can give us at least a little more indication on where they're leaning this weekend. The NHL scouting combine will begin, so you'll get kind of an idea of how these players are weighing in, what their fitness testing is like, and they'll be able to sit down and have interviews with all the teams. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of conclusions we can draw from that, what kind of quotes come out from that event about these players. There's just a lot more intel we can gather from this, and it's important to keep your eyes peeled and your ears listening for those type of conversations, because you're going to get more of an indication on where the Montreal Canadiens brain trust lies on these situations. Sure, they're not going to tip their hand too much, but you can at least get an idea of what they're looking for with that fifth overall selection and out of the 31st or 32nd overall pick in this draft. The Montreal Canadiens are going to be getting two very good players, assuming they make both of those selections, which we're assuming right now that they will, but we're not going to rule anything out at this time. This video, I kind of want to discuss one of the other options that should be available at the fifth overall pick for the Montreal Canadiens. It appears as though there's still a lot up in the air in regards to Matvei Michkov. We're not really sure where they stand with that. He's likely not going to be present at the NHL Combine, which we kind of knew going in. He's apparently going to be there for the NHL draft, though, which is at least a positive thing, and at least gives an indication that he's going to be coming over after his contract is done in 3 years with SKA in the Russian league over there in the KHL. So I do believe that someone is going to take that risk on him in the top 10. Whether you want to call it a risk or not, we'll have that conversation another time. But one player that's somewhat intriguing at fifth overall, and there's at least some buzz around him, is Ryan Leonard out of the United States Development Program. Ryan Leonard is the type of player that you win with in the postseason. He might not have that elite skill that some of the other top guys like a Michkov could have that would be there with the fifth overall pick. Who knows if it will even be there anyways. That'll be something we're able to figure out closer to the date with all the rumblings that are going to go on. But Leonard is just the type of player. He has that power forward mentality. He's not exactly the biggest kid, but he's got that high compete level. He's got a very good shot. He's got a lot of NHL quality skills that should make for him to be a valuable top six forward. I really wonder where he would fit in the Montreal Canadiens top six on offense, though. He's a winger, so that is part of the equation. Does he fit in well with a guy like Nick Suzuki? Could he play with Slavkovsky and Suzuki down the line? Could he play with Suzuki and Caulfield? There's a lot of indications that that would be a smart play. You want someone that's able to go into the corners on that line, win puck battles, but also be able to create offense as well. And Leonard has certainly shown us throughout this year that he can do that and is a very high-end prospect as well. It's going to be interesting to see, though, what the Canadiens decide to do with this selection, because if a player like Michkov is on the board and he ultimately does turn into a superstar down the line and the Canadiens don't select him, there's going to be a lot of buzz surrounding that, and I just don't think that it's going to fare well for the Canadiens if that ultimately does transpire. There's a lot of worries around Michkov, and rightfully so, but at the end of the day, you have to go with your gut, and if the Montreal Canadiens do their research and they deem that it's not worth the risk, then they're not going to go in that direction. It seems as though Ken Hughes is a little bit risk averse with how he likes to run this organization, so it wouldn't surprise me if they go a different direction. And Leonard is certainly a sound pick if they ultimately do decide to go that way. I think it ultimately could come down to Ryan Leonard or David Reinbacher if the Canadiens ultimately look away from Michkov, assuming he's there at fifth overall. Those aren't picks that are going to really jump off the page at you, but they're certainly two of the type of players that you need to win a Stanley Cup. You would like a little bit more high upside with the fifth overall selection, but if the Canadiens decide to look away from Michkov, both those players are very valuable pieces. They just don't really move the needle a ton, which is kind of what you're looking for with the fifth overall selection, though. So I'm not going to say I would hate those selections. I'm just personally a little bit biased towards Michkov because I want that superstar talent in a Montreal Canadiens uniform. I want that high upside, high skill player because that's just something the Montreal Canadiens have been missing for the last 30 years. And this type of player doesn't come along often, especially at the area of a 5th overall pick. So I think the Canadiens would be wise to strongly consider that. I'm not saying anything that we don't already know. We know this is a possibility, and I'm not going to rule out anything as of this moment. But as of right now, I would say that those 3 players are likely going to be there for the Canadiens at 5th overall, and you're going to have to make that decision. And I believe that any 3 of those players could wind up being Montreal Canadiens by the end of draft day in 2023. That's it for me today from Cook's Corner. As always, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the possibility of the Montreal Canadiens selecting Ryan Leonard with the 5th overall pick in the 2023 draft. I'm Zach Cook. We'll see you later.